So today we have Rahayu and Peng, who are both SCWO board members. Both of them will be facilitating the session this morning. I will now pass my time over to Rahayu. Rahayu, please.
Yeah. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Wishing everyone logging in a very good morning and a greeting of peace to our Muslim friends from across the region with Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Rahayu, representing SCWO board, and also as the president and representative of the Singapore Muslim Women Association. I hope everyone had a good rest of a full day session yesterday. Do you all? I hope so. And all safe and healthy to continue with our morning session today. Just a bit of overview of today's masterclass. ACWO, or ASEAN Confederation of Women Organization, one of its aims is to empower women economically by forging ties that would enhance entrepreneurial activities between states and to develop best practices in the creation of social service enterprises that will help women to gain financial independence. With that in mind, this masterclass is an invitation to all the women and women entrepreneurs, an opportunity to have a real leadership conversation on ways to advance the entrepreneurial activities in your respective countries, as well as to foster entrepreneurship spirits between countries in the region. So today, to start off this morning sharing on women and entrepreneurship, we were very fortunate and lucky to have two inspiring women, Michelle Cheo, CEO of Mewah International Inc., and also Winnie, CEO and founder of Bynd Artisan. I would also like to introduce you to the lovely lady who will be engaging and moderating with our panelists, Ms. Peng. Ms. Peng is board member of SCWO, and together we oversee the ASEAN Women Entrepreneurs Network, AWEN Singapore chapter. Ms. Peng is also a founding member of Lady First, a society with the objective of giving back to the women of the society. Over to you, Peng.
Thank you, Rahayu. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So, yes, today we have with us two very special guests from Singapore. The first presenter is Ms. Michelle Cheo. She is the CEO of Mewah International Inc., a global agribusiness focused on edible oils and fats with refineries and processing facilities in Malaysia and Singapore, and a worldwide marketing network. It is one of the largest palm oil processors in the world by capacity and produces a wide range of vegetable oils and their downstream products. So Ms. Cheo has been with the group since 2003. And prior to that, she has worked with ExxonMobil for a span of 6 years. Other than helming a successful business conglomerate, Ms. Cheo is also committed to the community and sits on the board for various associations such as Singapore Chinese Chamber of Commerce and Industries, SCCCI, and Singapore Chinese Orchestra. Now, please join me and let's welcome Ms. Michelle Cheo to bring us on the very much anticipated masterclass on women and entrepreneurship. Michelle, please.
Good morning, all of you ladies. It is with great pleasure that I am here today, and I really want to thank both organizations for inviting me today. I've been tasked to do a masterclass about women and entrepreneurship. I have to admit that I am by no means an expert, but I will seek to present some of the statistics and some of the stories, as well as my own about this. So why is entrepreneurship important? Well, I think that a lot of, in recent years, there have been a lot of discussion about entrepreneurship. And a lot of people do recognize that there is a lot of advantages of having entrepreneurship active in the countries is very good. This is for a number of reasons. First of all, entrepreneurs are able to spur economic growth, and because of that, they are able to create a ecosystem around that can generate even more economic growth. As a result, entrepreneurs are able to add to the national income of their countries. Some entrepreneurs are not in it just for the business angle, but they're also there to create social change. That means that they have a desire to do something for society that could make it better. And this, of course, also adds to the fabric of society. While doing all of this, through the employment opportunities, there is also community development in the area in which they are working on. This is therefore why there's a great desire, and this is not really surprising, because if there was a survey done on entrepreneurship, it actually shows that in general, entrepreneurship is viewed as a high status job by both men and women. This survey was done in multiple countries, and what the survey also showed was that China has the highest rate of all countries as perceiving entrepreneurship as a good job. And in particular, women more than men tended to agree with this statement in China. In fact, when we did a study, right, from the startup genome, it was actually, to me, it was very surprising to see that there were a lot of countries in Asia that was topping in terms of the ranked ecosystems that were ranked highly in terms of able to have an ecosystem that encourage startups. In fact, Indonesia and specifically Jakarta topped the list, followed by Guangzhou, Kuala Lumpur, Mumbai, Nanjing. So I think it is very encouraging to note that there are a lot of ASEAN cities which have been ranked highly in this report. Combined, these emerging ecosystems in total represent 49 countries and have a value of US 348 billion. In general, however, Asia Pacific is ranked third with 22 ecosystems. So I think it is, in fact, ASEAN is doing well in the ranking of entrepreneurs. What may also be surprising to some of you will be that actually there is more entrepreneurship in lower income countries. When we were looking at the total entrepreneurship activity rate, right? Actually, they found that among women entrepreneurs, this was on average at 10.2%. But when we looked at low income countries, actually women's participation rate is at 15.1%. So additional 5% is huge. And the highest rate of total entrepreneurship was actually found in Africa and Latin America. And again, when we were to rank the top 9 countries, Indonesia was ranked very high, in fact, the top 3. And Thailand and Vietnam also was able to showcase as very high for women entrepreneurship. And this, of course, is a global entrepreneurship monitor, and the data is from 2018-19. Now, there are many reasons why people start a business, but in reality, it should not be surprising to us why there is so much entrepreneurship activity in lower income countries. And the reason, to be honest, is because there are no other means of economic support or employment. Because of this, a lot of women will then, a lot of people in general will start businesses in order to provide a living for the family. And in reality, after this, as a country becomes more and more higher income, actually entrepreneurship rates drop because there is opportunity in other areas, such as to join a multinational or other businesses in other careers such as, professorships, lecturers, teaching, medicine, etc. Right? So there are many different other job opportunities that become available once the national income moves up. And therefore, people are less likely to become entrepreneurs. So globally, 27% of women entrepreneurs report starting a business out of necessity. Similarly, entrepreneurship drops with education levels. Again, this is because women are able to find other jobs besides starting a business once they become more educated. So Asia actually currently has a high rate of change in women's entrepreneurship level, rising from 9.9% to 13.4%. The fear, of course, will be that soon, in a few years' time, we may actually see a decline in this number as Asia increases in national level and there are more opportunities available for careers for them to pursue besides entrepreneurship. Now, when we look at intention, basically the global average of women to start a business within the next 3 years is 17.6%. And this has been found in higher in lower income countries at 37.8%. Similarly, in terms of gender, it is found to be closest in parity to low-income countries. So again, we are reiterating the standpoint that in lower-income countries where needs are more basic, because of necessity, there are more people starting businesses. Women in 2018-19 has the highest rate of change, increasing from 9.9% to 13.4%. And like I said earlier, there is a fear that as the income level in Asia increases, then there may actually be a peak in the rate of entrepreneurship activity. Now, what can government and policy makers do in order to encourage entrepreneurship ecosystems? I turn over to Mazerol's 2014 study. And he has developed a framework which has been repeated many times, right? Now, government policy is important, including especially the regulatory framework and infrastructure. Availability for funding and finance is important, as well as the culture of the society there. To have a catalyst to initiate and help entrepreneurs succeed is important. And so a network of mentors and advisors or universities as catalysts would be important, including education and training and the human capital to help entrepreneurs to succeed. Of course, the local and global markets are also important so that entrepreneurs have a way to sell their products. What prevents people from starting a business? So if you were to look at it, it is pretty similar across both women and men. And these would be in terms of the fear of whether they have the right startup skills, a fear of failure, a opportunity to perception of opportunity. And one of the key things is whether they know other entrepreneurs. If they personally know other entrepreneurs, they're also more likely to start up. Now, what specifically, right, for women, what helps women to succeed as entrepreneurs? Right now, I would make a pitch that actually entrepreneurship networks and forming entrepreneurship networks are very important for helping women to succeed as entrepreneurs. Now, why is that? Well, first of all, networks are a crucial conduit of capital. If people are able to, oftentimes we do need capital to start, and in order to grow the business, access to capital is important. Networks are quite a crucial conduit of capital. Secondly, influence of role models and access to specific advice you need to help one succeed is also important, and entrepreneurship networks are able to provide this. Networks therefore help an entrepreneur to consolidate her credibility and trustworthiness, right, in order to build relationships so that they can provide access and help them to succeed. Now, there have been other studies, not in entrepreneurship specifically, but what they find from these studies is that in order to find help, people with many loose connections are more likely to succeed than people who don't have loose connections. If you think about this, it's good to have your parents, it's good to have your close friends, but they are less likely to provide many different diverse ideas or access to capital beyond what one has been growing up with. By having many loose networks, one is then able to have, as one encounters problems, one is able to tap upon these different networks in order to have different ideas or people who can help you connect with other people. And therefore, a system of loose networks is very critical to help someone grow their ideas. And entrepreneurship networks are able to provide someone in this category. Networks also allow an entrepreneur to test her ideas with a critical audience and receive feedback. Networks also provide a diverse context to strengthen their ideas, competencies, and resources. Now, why is this more important for women rather than men? Because somehow it is found, and it is a true specific point, that women are more likely to benefit from entrepreneur networks than men. And the reason is because they are less likely than their male counterparts to personally know other entrepreneurs. So if I can share my own personal story, when I'm in business, right? But when I look at my group of friends that I grew up with and I went to school with, a lot of them have become professionals, right? And therefore, they are not likely to help me in my entrepreneurship journey. A lot of them have also become homemakers. And so again, this is not a network that I'm readily available to. And therefore, joining entrepreneurship networks, I have been able to grow with like-minded people and tap upon them for different sources of ideas. When I compare this, say, with my husband, who is actually not in business, if I were to go for an event or I were to meet people, in comparison, he is more likely to know people who are in business from his school network or from connecting with other men that he happens to know. So even though he is a professional and not in business, surprisingly when I started, I was surprised to know that naturally he already knew more people in business than myself. Therefore, joining entrepreneurship networks, I have found to be personally also very effective. Now, when we look at this study was done by EY, right? And they only reinforced the point, right? In their 2013 survey, they found out that for female entrepreneurs who are more actively engaged in external networks, they were more likely to have differences in business outcomes than women who. And as you can see from this study, the difference is quite huge, between 5 to 10%. So joining women networks for women can really make a significant difference to their business. What sort of support networks are we talking about? There is a range, and it is not one size fits all. So we're talking about business incubators, or just be linked to to educators or in business will make a difference for women. My last point today is I just wanted to talk about the whole COVID situation and to share some of the things that happened during this period. 2020 has been a very unusual year. And I think the only thing that I can say is that businesses have to constantly evolve. If not, it is very difficult. Now, how do we evolve as a business? Personally, in my over more than 15 years in business, 2020 is unusual, but by no form unique. By the sheer fact that I have been in business for this length of time, I have seen many, many ups and downs. To be honest, business is very difficult. What can I say, right? At the end of the day, if I had to give advice, the first thing I would say is cash is king. To be able to have a stockpile of cash to save for rainy day is helpful, simply because we don't know what life would bring. In March this year, before the Fed stepped in, there was actually a lot of fear in the banking sector because suddenly the US dollar was seizing up. So the whole idea of access to US dollar was even under threat until the Fed came in and made liquidity available. Therefore, there are a lot of unthinkables that could happen. Cash is ultimately king. Secondly, we can't react. If we bring ourselves to a lot of fear, in a way, there are so many things that pull us in many, many directions. So we cannot be reactive. But at the same time, we have to act quickly. Now, how do you do that when there are so many things that are happening? What you have to do is to pause and reflect on your vision, because that is the one staple that will not change. What is your vision? What is your value set? And by doing that, one is able to, above the noise, to think about what we can do. What is it that we choose to act quickly to solve the situation? The other thing, of course, at the end of the day is that we may have many stakeholders, but listening to our customers is key. And to be honest, they may probably tell us how we should be able to react in our business. Lastly, what has worked in the past may not be able to help us in the future. Also, we may have also a lot of ambition, but this cannot carry, that has to be reinforced with reality. So we must have the courage to let go of our past successes. We also have to let go of our ambition, to listen to our customers, to listen to who we are, our value set, and then to act quickly to pivot to the current reality. Now, don't just listen to me. What I did was I interviewed some of my friends and asked them what they thought. From Indonesia, there is, of course, Noni, who is very well known. And then in an interview, what she said was this: we have to be happy if we want to make others happy. That is why it is so important to make our drivers happy, so that they can make you as the customer feel happy. Our drivers stopped to operate as they were depressed by the situation. And she was, I think, referring to the whole technology change that was sweeping through Indonesia. We need to think hard on how we could bring back their smiles. So by making their drivers happy, they could also then be happy to their customers. Of course, as we know, Bluebird, which is the largest taxi operator in Indonesia, has also been evolving non-stop, embracing technology so as to make change happen in the onslaught of change. From Philippines, I asked Chris Albert. Now, Chris is the co-founder, president, and CEO of iSports Life Inc. So she actually was working at Fila in Philippines. Fila is an Italian brand, And so what happened was then she did a management buyout, and she is now in charge of the 40 over stores and 100 plus store-in-store presence nationwide in Philippines. You can imagine, because she was in retail, it was quite difficult during COVID-19. And what she did, right, and I quote, during COVID, I was lucky enough to establish a board of directors of experienced entrepreneurs and professionals. We met once a week for 2 hours, and they helped me to pivot, focus on priorities, and held me accountable. So this, again, this goes back to the fact, and I didn't preempt her, she really meant this goes, however, this goes back to the fact that entrepreneurship network and knowing people who can be that board of directors is very crucial to helping someone succeed. And she was very lucky to find people who were committed enough to meet once every Monday afternoon to hold her accountable. And she pivoted accordingly to focus on her priorities, letting go of some of her plans and focusing on what was required for the business. From Myanmar, I spoke to Wai. Wai is, I think, was named one of the top 5 women in Myanmar before she turned 30. And she's the founder of Bella Cosmetics Myanmar. She speaks of her vision. I just want to add value to people, and I started the business to give Myanmar women the right to be beautiful at an affordable price. As you know, right now, Myanmar is undergoing also a second lockdown. So as she said, during COVID, we quickly pivoted by focusing on skincare instead of cosmetics. We also changed our packaging sizes. As a result, we are doing 150% of the business when compared to pre-COVID. Of course, she did add the caveat that with the second lockdown, she'll have to see how her business is affected. But I think this speaks of the strength of her business by quickly pivoting. As she said, during COVID, nobody was going out, which was why she had to pivot the business to focus on skincare instead. To resounding success. And that brings me to the end of my talk. I hope that the stories and a little bit of the survey of the study has been useful to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Absolutely love your perspectives, your insights, and especially sharing on how your friends, female entrepreneurs, showed resilience and courage to face COVID and to overcome COVID, not just by the nature of their own network, but reaching out to people that can help them to pivot. I myself am an entrepreneur and also a second generation family business management personnel. So I can identify with so many of the examples that you have mentioned, and I'm sure many of our audience here can resonate with the hardship that we have experienced during this COVID. So big round of applause to everybody here who are entrepreneurs or part of the ecosystem that has helped our women to overcome COVID and also to move forward in the new world. So thank you, Michelle. I will invite you to join us on our panel next. But first, we have Ms. Winnie Chan. We are all familiar with Winnie, a very, very close to heart Singaporean brand. And she is a very successful business entrepreneur from Singapore, CEO and founder of Bynd Artisan. She has pivoted the form of gifting and created experiences that are first of its own by transforming the business, which has a legacy of more than 70 years. So Ms. Chan represented Singapore at the 2017 APEC Women and the Economy Forum in Hue, Vietnam. sharing her thoughts on women entrepreneurs in a changing global market. She is also a mentor at the prestigious Young Women Connect program. So without further ado, Winnie, please.
Thank you, Peng. Thank you. Hi, good morning, ladies. I'm going to jump straight into a slide in view of the time. So Bynd Artisan is about personalized gifts for every occasion, for everyone. And this was a business that was started by my husband and myself 6 years ago. Prior to this, I was working for 22 years in my family business, which was actually in manufacturing and producing OEM for other brands, making products like accounts books and diaries. So I was asked to present a case study on Bynd Artisan, and I hope that my story of pivoting is something that will inspire you, that you don't have to be tech, to succeed in today's digital world. Next slide, please. So today, Bynd Artisan, we have 5 stores, and we have also done pop-ups in Manila, Hong Kong, and China. Next slide. Okay, we're going to play this video, which will give you more insights into what Bynd Artisan is about. This is a video that was done by Singapore Tourism Board. Yes, we can play the video.
I still remember stories of my grandmother sewing the books by hand. No matter how good the products were, it always was just a price game. I failed to get the recognition that I wanted on the products. At that point in time, I told myself I had to build a brand that customers would love and be proud of to have on their products. My name is Winnie, and this is James.
And we are both founders of Bynd Artisan.
I grew up loving all things local. I remember back then going for musicals, Digley's Fried Rice Paradise. I remember shopping at Tang Studio and going to Bras Basah to browse at cassette stores. I've always loved stationery. I had always wanted our brand to be recognized. And in fact, that was something that even my grandfather knew back then. So I spent the first 20 years of my career in the family business, which was in bookbinding. I thought about how to combine both of these loves into something that I could be proud of. One of the challenges was because the stationery and the bookbinding industry is considered sunset industry. But what we have done is presented the same product, but in a different format that allow the customer to actually have an experience when they enter our atelier.
打从我加入维尼父亲的工厂开始，我就是一名工匠了。事和物的确是改变了。我看着维尼长大，而他对保留传统工艺的传承的决心，我感到最高兴的。这是非常重要的。
Every new brand faces the same problem or the same challenge. That is where to open the first store. But we had a lucky break 4 years back. A major departmental store along Orchard Road gave us the opportunity to start a very small counter. We are both very grateful for that opportunity.
Where we are today with our flagship atelier in Holland Village, it's a mix of tradition and modern. I love how it's an old area, but it's been gentrified. One could explore and walk around and actually chance upon our atelier. It's almost like finding a hidden treasure. Being well received in Holland Village gave us the confidence to go to Orchard Road.
Orchard Road has this very vibrant buzz. International brands together with the local brands. Wider mix of shoppers that is quite different from the quiet charm in Holland Village.
We're very proud to have grown our brand from one that's lesser known to one that's now alongside international brands.
We build on the heritage. We are creating this modern atelier, specializing in paper crafting. We are now able to call this our own. Passion is about wanting to do something better and enjoying it every single time.
And that's passion.
Okay, thank you very much for playing that. I hope you guys got to see it. I'm not sure. There was a chat from Rahayu. I'm not sure if all of you saw it, but okay, essentially, what was the catalyst for change, right? So the old man that you saw in the video, Mr. B.C. Chung, he's our master craftsman. He is 78 years old today, this year. And prior to joining Bynd Artisan, he was actually our production manager in my family business. And at that time, when we were going to start Bynd Artisan, the factory was being moved from Singapore to Malaysia. And we had 5 craftsmen that we wanted to retain. They had been in our business for 40 to 50 years. And we were thinking how to continue employing them since they were still able to work and love their work, right? So this is the story that I'm going to share today. Now, why did we pivot? I think when you need to pivot, it's because you are acknowledging that something is wrong with your concept. It could be your product is wrong. It could be your customer is wrong. It could be your market is wrong. And to actually acknowledge that you need to pivot can be a very painful process, because essentially you are acknowledging that something is not going right and you need to make a difference. And you actually need a lot of courage in order to pivot. My inflection point came when my kids were in high school. And I remember how I used to make designs when I was in my family business. And I would bring it home and show it to my kids and ask them, hey, what do you think of this? Do you think this will sell? And one day my kids said, Mom, you should just sell the business, because no one's gonna buy this stuff anymore. You know, no one writes in notebooks anymore. And this was a time when I remember I would ask them to write something down, and they would go, no, I don't have to. I will just take a picture of whatever it is and keep it on my phone. So I started wondering and being very fearful that I may not have a customer in the next generation. And that was how we embarked on building Bynd Artisan. And today it is a business innovation that I want to share with you. Next slide, please. So we used a design thinking to think about various aspects of Bynd Artisan. It encompasses the space design, the shopping experience, the people design, the product design, and also collaborations. So many times when people are thinking of a design, they're just thinking, oh, it's a very pretty catalog, or they're thinking about the product features. I think product features is one thing, but what you need to think about in a business is the unique value proposition. What is it that is so compelling that you are offering to the customer, an experience with your product that is beyond the customer's expectations? So that was the kind of mindset we had when we started thinking about how to design Bynd Artisan. So in the space, you can see a mixture of old, which points to our heritage of being third generation, as well as new, in order to attract the millennials to actually come in to the stores. Space design is also thinking about the needs of our people, especially our older craftsmen. They need stools to sit on. Most people in retail jobs, they need to spend all day. But the way we have designed the space, when our craftsmen put on their uniform, they look smart. They are able to sit down to do their crafting, and customers actually come in and chat with them with a lot of respect. Next slide, please. So part of the business innovation was to create this experiential retail concept where customers are drawn into a store. I think many times when you are outside a store and you think, oh, what is this shop about? Maybe I should just walk in to explore. Sometimes the customer is intimidated because the storekeepers are inside the store and looking out. And you don't really want to have like eyes on you as you are walking into the store to explore. So middle of the store, drawing your attention to the craftsmen who are actually doing something. They're crafting. And that piques the customer to actually come closer to understand what the craftsman is doing and to be curious and to ask questions. What you see in the slide here are actually pictures of our latest product, which is our current bestseller. It's a leather hand sanitizer product, which is relevant during COVID times. It's a way to luxuriate your hand sanitizer and actually hang it outside your bag. Now, this was a second round of pivoting for us. And just before the lockdown in Singapore was announced in April, within 3 days, we came out with the mold, we came out with take-home kits, as well as self-addressed envelopes that our retail craftsmen could bring home, and they could work from home, complete the product, and actually mail it back to our warehouse so that we can fulfill our web store orders. Now, this was very important because our retail frontline staff, they have been experiencing dwindling footfall, decreased sales, no more tourism. So they were very, very fearful. And with this project, they were able to know that they had a purpose and they can actually add value to the company. And this was something very important because I think at that time, there were many companies who already started to retrench and there was a lot of fear and uncertainty. So yeah, live handcrafting is something that you would see in our ateliers. Next slide, please. So besides live handcrafting, we trained our staff to engage in storytelling, to educate the customers about the product and about the stories behind the reasons for some of the collaborations that we do. Now, this is very important because a product is not just a product. This storytelling aspect brings meaning to the product. Next slide, please. So what is our value proposition? We have leather products. Our bestseller is also a customized notebook where customers can come in, they can pick different paper covers, different rivets, snap buttons, and choose a notebook which retails for US dollars, $25, and they can customize it. So this is very important because if you are gifting and you want to give something to your friend and your friend really loves pink, to give your friend something that is suited to their preferences shows that you put a lot of thought and meaning into that gift. And it just brings a whole new meaning to gifting and being very heartfelt. We also do crafting workshops and collaborations. Next slide, please. So another part of the business that is headed by my husband is in corporate gifting. We do gifts for the Istana, and here you see our president, Madam Halima. These are some of the state gifts that foreign dignitaries would receive when they visit the Istana. And it has brought meaning because there are artworks on it from charities that Madam Halima actually support, like Club Q and CPAS. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yes, so we also do corporate gifts. And again, here you see artworks from the corporate vaults that are applied onto their calendars, their diaries, their pouches, to bring new meaning to whatever the theme it is that the corporate is looking to give. So it's not just a generic pen, it's not just a generic notebook, but something that has a theme that brings meaning to what the bank wants to tell its customers, or the multinational wants to tell its customers. Next slide, please. So we talked about experiential retail experience. So we focus a lot on the retail on experience and how to engage the customers. And what we did when we converted our first five craftsmen from the production back room to the retail forefront is a form of people and job redesign. I want to share a story about one of our craftsmen. She joined the business when she was 15. Her father worked for my grandfather's business. And when we first started Bynd Artisan, her hands were trembling. And today she's in her 50s or early 60s, and her hands are trembling. And I asked her, why are you trembling? You know, you've been doing this all your life, you know, you should be very comfortable with it. And she shared with me that she was very fearful because she had to do her crafting in front of customers who were watching her, because the promise is to actually create your customized gift and personalize it right in front of your eyes within 15 minutes. And we invite the customer to take videos, to take photos, and to hashtag us on social media. So she was very, very worried. But we held her hand and we did a lot of on-the-job training and step by step. And 1 month later, she told me that when we first started, she was always hoping that there would be no customers that day because she was so scared. Until a month later, she was always craning her neck and looking forward to the next customer to enter the store. And 6 months into it, this craft lady, she only had primary 6 education. So she had only 6 years of formal education, and she speaks primarily in Chinese. But 6 months later, I was in the Chile and I witnessed her presenting our products to an Indian customer in English. And I must say, I was truly, truly impressed. And what I always tell people is that it's not about language. Language is not really a barrier to communication. If I were to go to Japan, just because I don't speak Japanese does not mean that I cannot buy from a storekeeper who is talking to me in Japanese. Communication also comes in the form of body language. We can always use our hands to gesture, to point. We can always use a calculator to communicate the price. And that is something that I'm really proud of for our team. It has been a 180 degrees transformation. They also had to learn how to operate the POS to process payments. And today I must say that our craftsmen each have their own fan base. Many of them receive more mooncakes or gifts during Christmas than I do. And we often have customers who would call and say, oh, is this particular craftsman on duty today? Because I would really love to come in and get her to, you know, craft my gift because, you know, she really knows my taste so well. Next slide, please. So this is the tech part of the business. We also have a web store where we are very particular about the UI and UX design and the customer journey. I must admit that even though we have had a web store that was able to customize since we started 6 years ago, COVID-19 has forced us to really look at it and to embrace it, because during the lockdown in Singapore, this was our only source of income. And we paid a lot more attention to it in terms of building content that our customers could find meaningful, like coming out with a series on how journaling can be healing. It could be a self-help tool to write for reflection, to write your fears, to write your goals, to write your wish, and things like that. We also focus a lot on creating content, celebrating Father's Day, Mother's Day, and essentially our focus on the web store includes spending on search, on social media ads, as well as having that interface that allows you to actually visualize what you have customized and to make sure that you're happy with it before you check out. So this aspect is something that I think we really had to pivot and pay a lot of attention to. I think we learned a lot. And even though today, I think peer-to-peer recommendation, which is word of mouth recommendation, is still the best. But in order to grow, we still need to engage with Facebook ads, with IG ads, and with Google search in order to reach out to a wider audience. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is the part about our workshop, just to let you see how our workshops look like. So we can do letter crafting workshops, bookbinding workshops, calligraphy workshops, and painting workshops. And these are some of the activations we had when our craftsmen went out to the customer's location to do some workshops. Next slide, please. Oh, we had a Korean pop group twice visit us. This was a girl pop band of 9 young ladies. And this was really memorable because we had to close our store for them to come in and to film a virtual reality TV series. And there are 9 of them, and each of them had their own dedicated bodyguard, cameraman, and videographer. So each of them had 3 of these people dedicated to them, and there were 9 of them. So I've never seen more videographers and photographers in our ateliers. But this was an initiative by the Singapore Tourism Board, and I must say that it helped a lot because after their visit and the reality TV series actually aired in Korea, we saw a lot of Korean tourists actually visiting us and wanting to make the products that they customized when they visited us. Next slide, please. So we also have workshops that you can book one-on-one sessions, like on weekends, to team bonding sessions, to birthday celebrations, hen parties, anything you name it. Next slide, please. So why do we engage in collaborative design? So this is a way for us to diversify from the stationery sector into the lifestyle sector. So we work with creatives from different industries, from architects, from singer-songwriters, from industrial designers to photographers, to fashion designers, and even restaurants. And in this way, we have synergies in marketing costs because their followers get to know about Bynd Artisan, and Bynd Artisan's followers get to know about these creatives as well. And with these creatives, because they appeal to different target audiences, we are able to reach out to these different target audiences with each collaboration. Next slide, please. So these are some of the examples of the collaborations that we have done before. On the right side, you see a mooncake where we collaborated on the packaging. You see a calendar with a calligraphy. You see a baby book, which was a collaboration with Mother's Work, a mother and baby store in Singapore, and an obstetrician gynecologist doctor. Now, this was a collaboration that we actually launched during COVID, and we had to pivot this as well to be a work from home activity that parents could actually do with their kids to spend time together and to reconnect and to go through, take a walk down memory lane with their kids. And the last one is actually a collab with a singer-songwriter who has written many popular songs for famous Chinese artists. Next slide, please. So, okay, in this picture, you see our former president, Dr. Tony Tan, and this is Mary Tan. And my kids, yep, these are the kids who judged me when they were teenagers. They are now no longer teenagers. My daughter is 22 this year, and my son is 20. And this was us in the Istana when we won the President Design Award. And we won the award for total design, for design thinking, as I mentioned earlier. Next slide, please. And we also went on to win the Singapore Tourism Award. Now, this was a very interesting award because they sent mystery shoppers into a shop at different times, different mystery shoppers, and tested us on our customer service, on our products. And I am very proud to say that we won this award as an SME over the other two finalists, which was Rolex Southeast Asia, as well as Marina Bay Sands. Next slide. So what do we stand for at Bynd Artisan? One of our motto or ethos is something's worth sharing. And I have always been very open to share at events like this because of what we stand for. So what do we stand for? We stand for business innovation. We stand for design thinking. We stand for respect. Respect for our environment in the raw materials that we use. All our raw materials are from European countries. Our paper are from FSC or Forest Stewardship Council certified sources. So, you know, when they don't, they replant trees if they were to chop down forests. And actually the paper mill that we work with also use wind energy as a form of energy. And for leather, we work with tanneries that do not dump chemicals into the sea. So it's about sustainability for our raw materials. It's also respect for our elderly craftsmen who have spent their whole lifetimes honing their craft, and a celebration of traditional craftsmanship. And last of all, we want to champion change. Change could happen even if you are old, like my husband and myself. We were in their 40s when we started Bynd Artisan. We hope that we can promote passion in the arts and design industry to support local. We hope to inspire those of you who feel trapped in sunset industries, that you're never too old to go into a new field despite having invested years in your current career. And of course, for our elderly craftsmen, they are true examples of active aging in today's world. Next slide. So we were very fortunate to have a lot of media features, and I'm always meeting friends or new people who share with me how they first came to know of Bynd Artisan thanks to the media. Next slide. So I've been asked to share with our ASEAN friends and ladies today on some of the strategies towards empowering and encouraging women entrepreneurial activities. So I'm going to go on 3 levels. The first level would be on a nationwide level, and then on a community level, and lastly, on a personal level. So on a nationwide level, I must say that we would not be here today if not for the support of our Singapore government, who has provided equal opportunities, access to capital, and access to markets. We have Enterprise Singapore that help build on the capabilities of local SMEs. So for myself, I have tapped on grants that supports human capital, that supports marketing, franchising, as well as digitalization. And our latest grant that we just received from Enterprise Singapore is to embark on a WeChat for now, to reach out to Chinese students and expats who are working in Singapore. And in time to come, WeChat could be a tool that we could use to reach out to Chinese tourists looking to visit Singapore. Our government has also been very supportive of local employment, innovation, and skill sets. And in Singapore, we have Skills Future as well as Workforce Singapore. So SSG and WSG, and these are agencies who are looking into lifelong learning. Each Singaporean has a credit that we can use to learn new skills and to improve ourselves. And Workforce Singapore is trying to help our various industries to pivot and to change in challenging times like today, and to ensure that employers can, like ourselves, can create jobs that employees can actually partake in. So I think in Singapore, it's that whole ecosystem for the business. We have transparency, we have efficiency, we have infrastructure, and we have stability. I think political stability is very key for us to attract investments from multinationals abroad, as well as to attract investments, to attract talent, to actually come from overseas to work with us, and so that we can learn from them and add on to our capabilities. So in my own capacity, I have always been very supportive of government initiatives, be it at SCWO and ACWO events like today, or with other women-led activities that our political party, PAP, organizes. Next slide, please. Now, on a community level, yes, I love sharing on panel my story and to empower and to inspire women. On my own as well, using Bynd Artisan as a platform, I have held forums where we engage with creative writers to check about, for them to share about their creative processes, how they are inspired to write. During our lockdown, I also organized a Zoom forum where we invited female entrepreneurs from different industries, from retail to F&B to consultancy to events, different industries and different sectors, to come together to share with each other what are some of our challenges during COVID, what we're doing to try to manage. And we also got a lawyer to come in to share with us the potential pitfalls, the things that we as women entrepreneurs need to watch out for due to the COVID. So I think we need to change that traditional cultural mindset that the role of the woman is at home, and we can do that by being shining examples ourselves. So, for example, before I had a helper, I think I only had a helper for the last 1 year, but before that, I mean, my husband and I, we were sharing responsibilities together with the children to do housework at home. So I think that perspective of the woman being the main caregiver in the household needs to change. So we need to recognize that women are able to add a new perspective to the table with our nurturing touch, with our empathy, our soft power, as well as our persuasive skills. We need to highlight that there are women who can inspire others, and we do this by having features at Bynd Artisan, interviewing different women and for what they stand for and what they champion for. And we can also create more women entrepreneurial groups. Michelle said earlier, at YWLC. I think two of my mentees are also on this chat. Hi, Beatrix, as well as, oh my God, I forgot my other mentee's name. Sorry, stage 5. But yeah, I think it's very meaningful what we do at YWLC. So you, as a business owner, you can actually create such platforms on a community level. Next slide, please. So on an individual level, what can you do, right? Obviously, you can walk the talk. You can shop at women-led enterprises. You can champion for their equality and diversity. You can help with peer-to-peer recommendation, sharing on social media. I think the best thing about COVID, the silver lining, has been that all of us have been able to use our mobiles and the apps, which are technology of today, to engage and to share information. And also there are many marketplaces that are now created where we can sell. I remember when we first started Bynd Artisan, we actually successfully crowdsourced US $150,000 on a Kickstarter project. And this is a very good way to actually test that your idea and to get seed funding from people who support your product and to actually deliver that product to people. So these are initiatives that you can do on an individual level that can really help to drive change. And I think we need to understand that together we are stronger if we combine forces. And in order to create change, I think we need to take that first step to come together to start with that change. So that comes to the next slide, the end of my presentation. Thank you very much, everyone. Back to you, Peng.
Thank you, Winnie. Very inspiring, and I think a couple of the women from the audience have questions that's specific to you, which I will bring up in a while. Okay. So now, can I invite both yourself and Michelle to our panel, and for a quick 15 minutes wrap up for both of your wonderful presentations. Michelle, are you on here with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, great. So thank you for joining us again, ladies. For a start, I have two questions for you, the both of you. The question is directed at both of you, so maybe we can have Michelle to start first, and then Winnie can go next, right? First question that I have. From Michelle's sharing, we see an increasing trend in women entrepreneurship in ASEAN. Also, those with lower education are also more likely to be entrepreneurs. So education levels and entrepreneurship kind of go in tandem in ASEAN. If we put these two elements together, in your opinion, what are the networks, tools, or collaboration that women entrepreneurs should be aware of and they can tap on to see more business synergy within their country or across?
Yeah, sure. So I think that we have formal and informal networks. So recently, even there have been other women who have reached out to me, friend or friends, and we just call each other and we organize dinners or lunches together to talk about topics. So by if one can get into such a network, or in a particular case, they actively seek to create these networks, it doesn't require a lot. Right? Especially in the days of WhatsApp, by forming a WhatsApp group, it's already possible to pull people together. Beyond that, of course, the second thing I would say is that one doesn't have to be shy to ask for help. So to actively seek out people and ask them to be the mentors is a way to get other people to be engaged in your success, right? And a lot of people are very flattered when one is asked to be a mentor. The other thing, of course, is that there are a lot of other groups, such as sometimes within the government groups, sometimes universities, you know, even EY, the other firms that try to create a network. So as you know, it's a way of a market lead, right? You start off when they're small so that you can grow them when they are bigger in order to reach out. I call these people connectors. So whether they are educating in the field of entrepreneurship, or they are studying, people, you know, university lecturers, etc. They are a wonderful network, and by engaging them, they actually pull you into other networks as well. So these can happen at a very informal basis. Lucky because in Singapore there are actually a lot of startup incubators which are being encouraged. So by joining for one of these, it would also be helpful. For me personally, I'm active in the Chinese Chamber. So association groups can also help, as I also join YPO, which all help people to become more connected with other entrepreneurs.
Okay, great. I think on the aspect of government, I mean, even in Singapore, we can even see agencies tapping on to Telegram to reach out to businesses to make sure that no one is left out. There's always a channel for you to reach out and to gain information on how you can receive help. But you know, for ASEAN, the challenge is also about, like what you mentioned about informal networks. I think one of the segments that women entrepreneurs are largely involved in are actually micro enterprise. How would you say micro enterprises are able to you know, to be part of the different networks or conduits of this entrepreneurship?
You see, at the beginning, I think it can be tough, right? So I have a friend who runs a dating agency, and it's the same thing. So when you start out, you may not meet your next person via the dating agency. By the sheer fact that you're willing to dress up and meet people, it already helps someone to connect.
Okay.
And what I would mean is that, you see, if you're in a whether your business is small or big, it just start out with the wanting to put yourself out and to connect. Then you will reach out, be more active, whether it's on digital networks or via physical networks. And because you just start going to these things, it's very tough at the beginning, maybe, if you don't know anyone, but after a while, you actually develop your own network.
So what you're encouraging for women to do is to get out there, take the first step. Once you take the first step, you know, it will just bring you along.
Yes, yes.
And there will be people there, people like yourself, who will help the women to step up, right? Perfect. So happy to hear that. So
can I also share something, Li-Ping?
Yes, Winnie, I was about to bounce this question to you.
Okay, so yeah, someone, Sapna from the chat, she mentions about Daughters of Tomorrow. So Daughters of Tomorrow is a charity that we have supported. We have done collabs and helped to raise funds for Daughters of Tomorrow as well. So they have an initiative that they started a year ago, mentoring ladies with home-based businesses. And these are beneficiaries of the Family Service Center or Daughters of Tomorrow. So there are charity organizations in Singapore that support such work. Personally, I'm also very active at Hello Jen Foundation, which nurtures entrepreneurs from high school onwards with entrepreneurship. And these are students from lower income family who feel that maybe they don't have the capital to start their own business, even though they may have a great idea. So there are platforms in Singapore where someone can reach out to and join in order to connect to entrepreneurs. And I'm sure in ASEAN, there are other similar such organizations.
Yes, I think maybe this one can be further explored in the breakout session later. I know all of us, many of the audience have burning questions that they have, but we'll leave that for the breakout session that we'll have after this Q&A. The other question that I have here is, with the COVID-19 pandemic, are there case studies or scenarios other than yourselves that you have witnessed in Singapore and also in ASEAN that has showed how the business has pivoted, or on a larger scale, the industry has shown solidarity that was brought about by women entrepreneurship?
I think Michelle shared several examples like Noni from Bluebird and other ASEAN examples. for me, I was really impressed with Directions. It's a PR marketing group helmed by 3 women in Singapore, Kitch, Tina, as well as Liang Zi. So with our lockdown in Singapore, what they do is a lot of events, right? They run charity balls, they run wedding dinners. So events essentially was closed. I mean, till today, right? You can't have a big event, and there are a lot of social distancing rules. But very early on, they actually organized Singapore's first Zoom ball for a financial institution. They got more than 500 people on Zoom. They got 26 different restaurants in Singapore to deliver dinner to all the people who donated. And they had entertainment online for the people who donated. This was very, very early on during our lockdown. And I was very, very impressed with how quickly they had pivoted, even though, you know, they could not hold events.
Yes, I think the fact that for Directions Group to amass every segment of the ecosystem to come together, even with the audience, the consumers, it's really, it just shows how much solidarity everybody has come together in a very short period of time. I totally agree with this initiatives, and it's very admirable that females are taking the lead. Another question that I have here from Dr. would be, women who start consultancies or agencies, they are highly educated, meaning, you know, with degrees and above. And this trend appears to be increasing with increasing affluence for ASEAN. So how will this explain education as a motivation to be an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so I think that is referring to my data. So my data comes out from the Babson College, and essentially they profiled 59 economies, showcasing 231 million women. So this would be a macro study, and of course it would not be able to take into account micro trends. Certainly, I do see personally for myself as well that sometimes there are people who, because they are professionals now, they then they then set up professional agencies, and then they are able to grow from that. And that could be in terms of accountancy, legal, HR, PR, etc. as well. So I do see these trends, but we're just talking about macro data.
Okay, and I also feel that, you know, for entrepreneurship to thrive, other than the willingness to step up, I think the ecosystem is very important. So even if it's a female-led professional consultancy firm, but because they're females, certain things that they want to champion or reach out to can be female driven, and therefore also enabling female entrepreneurs. It's a part of an ecosystem. That's my view as well. So thank you, Dr. Kaur, for your question. I have another question here. This is for Winnie. I think Teresa from Singapore, and also Farah from Indonesia. They mentioned about going into a business out of passion and interest, but a lot of times some entrepreneurs mention that taking on entrepreneurship may not be out of passion, but more of like, you know, you can make money out of it. So, but yours is a story of passion. So number one, what is your take on this? And secondly, how long did it take for you to plan and execute the pivoting phase? So I think Farah is referring to the pivoting during COVID and how to make sure that the business can financially sustain during this transition process.
Okay. Yeah, so let's start with the passion question. I think, of course, if you have a passion like me that you are able to grow, that's well and good. But I feel that it does not mean that if you don't have passion in something, you're not going to do it well. I will cite an example of a friend of mine, a girlfriend of mine. She is accountancy-based, accountancy trained. And most people would think that accountancy trained people are very quiet, right? But my friend is very vocal and she's very active. And I think she went into accountancy because that's what her entire family, her parents were. But eventually, what she did was that she's working in Silicon Valley right now, and she's working in a listed company. And what she does is investor relations. So you have to present the financial results to your investors and do it in a way where you know your stuff, you know your numbers, but still, you know, you are able to present, which not every accountancy trained person can. And I can see how, you know, that passion did not start initially, but as you hone your craft, like what we say at Bynd Artisan, that passion can come because at some point in time, you realize that you become quite good at what you're doing. Another example is our craftsman and store manager today at our Holland Village atelier, Don. Don is the one that actually designed the product that saved us from COVID, our leather hand sanitizer holder. Don was actually a florist before he joined Bynd Artisan. But it was something that he was interested in. And outside of his work, he started exploring, he started, you know, buying old machines on Amazon to play around with on his off days. Until today, I mean, due to seniority, I mean, our master craftsman would always be our master craftsman. But I would say that Don has built his skill sets to be even better than our master craftsman. And this was something that came about not because, you know, he joined us. He didn't join us because he had a passion in leather crafting, right? It was something that came on later. Yeah. The second question was about pivoting, I think. So how long did we have to pivot? For the design thinking aspect and coming up with Bynd Artisan, the whole process took 2 years. Okay. For our second pivot, with regards to coming out with this product just before lockdown, I think it was just 3 days because we were, you know, racing against time to come up with this before everyone was sent home.
Wow, 3 days. So amazing. But it shows how much of this value that you have in your brand and in your people that you could pivot just like that, you know? So kudos and really, really great effort for you and your team. It's really a story of legacy, culture, and I think for me, when I hear your story, it's really about people because it's the constant in your business, you know? So yeah, thank you for sharing. So I think, yeah, we do not have any more questions. There's just one more question that I think we can take on in the breakout session. That will be, the question is from Pui Chin from Singapore. Her question is on recommendations for women entrepreneur networks in ASEAN and Singapore. I think this is worth exploring later so we can see if there can be cross collaboration of women-led entrepreneur networks across ASEAN and not just within Singapore. So yeah, perhaps Rahayu can take it up later. So we have come to the end of our Q&A. I would like to pass the session back to Rahayu. Rahayu, please.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Lei Peng, Winnie, and also Michelle. That has been a very informative and also very enriching discussion. I personally find it very, very, what do you call it? You know, like Lei Peng said, you know, in terms of Winnie, it is really about legacy, culture, and also people, you know. And I think that's what makes it wonderful when women come together to think for the community. So now it's time for us to give opportunity for members of the floor, you know, to go for the breakout sessions where you can come and, you know, have a conversation with your own country people in terms of the takeaways that you have actually listened from Winnie and Michelle. And I liked us in the breakout session, there will be certain questions given for the different respective countries for you to have a conversation for actions in your respective countries and share with us about the work that needs to be done and also the concern that you have about the work that needs to be done, you know, in moving forward for this entrepreneurial activity. So to do this, I'll pass over to SCW staff to give you further instruction.